All right, hey, welcome to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. You have Sir Rick here. Drive safe, Dave, over to my left, wearing the old shirt, just to remind you that your internet can go out at any time. Drive safe, Dave. What's up with the internet's not working sign?
That is not the internet's not working sign. That is a caution roundabout ahead, sir. And if you've ever driven a truck through a roundabout, you know that it's not actually always the easiest, and everybody in the roundabout.
Well, it's not the easiest for cars either, I'm going to say. I know they swear by that drive safe that it keeps the flow of traffic. I don't know. I think it creates a lot of confusion. Not a big fan of the traffic circle.
You know, I'll tell you, I actually am a big fan of the traffic circle in and of itself. Is that there are less fatalities in traffic circles than there are.
There's not that many of them, Dave.
Well,
I mean,
but
oh no, not those kind of stats.
Look, this is just this is a logical stat. You're both going the same direction when you enter the intersection, less likely to have a head-on and or side swipe or a T condition in the intersection, so it would tend to be safer all around. Therefore, here at BCB Live, because it is the safest station in the nation, we support those safer ideas and implementations in traffic patterns.
I mean, I just got to ask where you get your stats from. I'm a stat guy. I know you throw these stats out like you did yesterday, throwing out 90% chance that rail's going to have a strike. I'm
going to go with...
Where are you getting your news from? That's all I got to say.
This is Drive Safe Dave logic at its best, demonstrated here in the idea of...
We got to get a segment here that when you say these kind of stats, we go like, blah, 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 you heard it first here on BCB Live.
And you know what? It's okay, because it's just logic.
I get logic, right? I get it. A lot of logic in all that we do. Sometimes it doesn't work out for the best. Hey, drive safe. You know, first of all, I want to welcome each and every one of you to the show today. It's a Tuesday morning. Things are starting to get going. And Dave, right now, we see that stock market today taking a little plunge, taking a little hit. I don't know if they've announced it yet, but we do know this, that there's another hike coming this week.
Yeah, pretty soon we probably need to start tapping the brakes on this economy and trying to not start, not take too much of a, we don't want to go into that recession really, right? Or we don't want to go into that, or should we call it a depression? You wouldn't want that.
We don't want the depression, I think, but we're trying to, it's almost like we're forcing ourselves into this, right? A recession for certain. And Dave, I get the logic. Let's go back to the logic right now.
Yeah.
But didn't it just seem a little bit more at peace when things were going good, and then we slow it down because of logic, right? We're paying too much money. Everybody's making too much money. We give a lot of money away. We have to pay. I'm just saying, somewhere in there lacks logic.
Well, I'll tell you, here's my deal, Sir Rick, and I'm just going to go out. Let's find a way to bring the price of fuel down a little bit by pumping it and producing it a little bit more, right? Am I crazy?
I agree.
Am I insane?
But the whole world's not, certainly we're not just relying on fuel only as the only problem. Certainly we know that it's a little deeper than the fuel.
I get deeper, but it's significant amount to the cause of our inflation is the price of fuel. Then why can't we go after one problem right away and maybe solve one of those problems instead of going?
I get it.
Instead of going, let's ignore the elephant in the room. Let's pump some oil. Let's produce some oil.
To be fair, if you were in the presidency today and you said we're going to do that, you flip the switch on. I don't think it would happen tomorrow.
Yeah, but I wouldn't turn off, and I'm going to.
That's all I got to say. I don't think it's. It's not an overnight success.
I get it. But
it's more like a one-hit wonder.
But really, what you're doing though, with what we're talking about, is you're not really wanting people to invest in oil. You're wanting to invest in electric, but right now, so you make it hard on the individuals today.
It's called an agenda.
Yeah,
sir.
And I get whatever.
It's called
your agenda.
It's called an agenda
straight to a depression. I'm okay if that's what you want.
You know what? I feel like that's where we're headed to right now. I'm telling you, we see that shipment count across, coming across. And well, I'm just saying, there's not as much purchasing going on today as was going, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, hell, 3 weeks ago. It's not what we see, Dave, and I don't think fuel's the answer to this thing. I do think this. I think we're going to get some false hope here coming up soon, because I do expect this for us to really start releasing a lot of inventory. We talked about that yesterday with Rob a little bit on these warehouses. Man, just full, right? I mean, warehouse inventories are full. Yep. At some point, I know we don't want to, because we paid a lot of money for this inventory, record money for this stuff that's sitting in there, but you're going to have to let it go. And it's going to have to be at prices that people can afford, or at least go in debt for, one of the two. Credit card debt, all of that. I feel like we're okay with that today. Keep raising the interest rates and let's borrow against it. You have all this equity in their home. Let's borrow against it. I really don't know what that plan is, but once we release that inventory, and I mean release, meaning deals like we haven't seen in a while.
Yes, sell it at a rate.
People will spend their money. We know that's who we are as America. We're going to spend our money on that. It may create some false hope for that trucking industry, for that transportation industry, as it creates more inventory to come back in. It creates more inventory shipping out of these warehouses, going to the final mile delivery, going to these, just all of that false hope may happen. And I call it that false. It's false, Dave, because I believe we saw that back in 2019. 2018 was a tough year. 2019, not a lot of things happened, right? Not a lot of production going on. And then all of a sudden, they just started clearing out those warehouses little by little by little, until finally 2020 came across. Things appeared to be going good, and then COVID, right?
Yes.
And COVID, as bad as that was, it created a lot of other problems. It created a workforce problem, right?
It did. But it did create a workforce service problem. It created an ability. And I believe it refocused how we. I think we're going to look at COVID year. It's going to change the way also, I think, that we look forward going forward about how we plan certain ideas into the future. I personally. Do you think of yourself? Do you think there'll be
I personally, so that means you're going to follow up with something.
I
can't go to a question on that.
I can.
It's like I really have a feeling right now you're like, I personally story's not going to work. There's no chance Sir Rick is going to go with this. Let me quickly spawn this off onto him.
Oh, I personally believe. How's that? I personally believe that we will, in some point, we will at some point create a better. We're going to have to get the fuel prices down. I know you don't want to go back to that. I think it is a big issue. I think it is a big problem. I think people believe in themselves and their consumer spending. They believe they have more discretionary income when they're not paying as much at the fuel pump.
Okay, but they can believe all they want to. But again, you're in that same boat as your buddies out there that say, let's keep going into debt. Let's go in debt because they believe now they can charge more, right? That's that belief. Let's start doing that. It's exactly what I just said.
Charging.
All I got to say is that you talk fuel. I talk more on that diesel side. One thing for certain right now is that diesel's adding a lot of money to creating a lot of this inflation. I know you're talking more gasoline, more of that public out there. I'm talking about the big trucks. I'm talking about that 65 cents a mile today in fuel surcharge.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Going out there.
To the inflation.
That needs to go down a little bit because that will help, people ship out a little bit.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm going to say, though, right now, that's I'll also go out and say, though, Dave, that's a competitive advantage for those larger trucking companies and brokers to allow their trucks to stay out there and run with less independent contractors, as competition.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's still, even though we do that, it's still that larger price is still adding to the inflation. And even though the larger trucking companies getting the competitive edge, it doesn't take away from the inflation being directly into the price at the shelf, the price in the store, the price. It doesn't take away just because they're getting a competitive edge.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you sell that story to a Swift, to a Knight, they're going to say, you know what, I'd much rather have the fuel prices where they are today. me also going out there getting that large fuel discount from that fuel place have a competitive advantage against anybody smaller than I am. So Dave, you can go back to your real world thing. I'm saying I am a trucking company. I'm a broker. I'm getting that money today. I'm also, as that same broker, spinning off record margins right now. Do you think I care about your fuel? My business, my checks are doing okay.
I get it. The independent contractor.
Can't we all just get along? I get it. It's all,
and to
you know
speak
what?
to in the trucking business,
Socialism. Just go ahead and say it. We're all equal. Let's all do that.
Okay, what about the independent contractor?
Hey, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with an interview, and we may get back to more socialistic drive safe, Dave,
my God,
in a little bit. Before that, though, break, come back, interview, all of this and so much more drive safe on
BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Rick Larkin here, host of BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. If you don't already know about Freight and Review, it's a segment I cover once a week where I analyze freight rejections, freight tenders, driver productivity, and much, much more. You can watch Freight and Review on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live. And welcome back to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. We're joined today with Kevin McBride. Kevin, top of the afternoon to you, or morning out in California. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm actually in your neck of the woods. I'm actually in Grapevine right now, so it's just kind of a coincidence. I could have stopped in the studio, but looking at moving out here, so.
We should have done it right there. But let me tell you, that's 35 miles at $3 a gallon as opposed to $3.05 a gallon. You may want to rethink that a little bit as we continue to talk about. And you missed it, Kevin, off the air. Drive Safe we're in a monopoly right now on the fuel side. So
oh my gosh!
This argument we're going to have may go on for weeks now. Is where we are. But Kevin, hey, this isn't about us. This is about you. Hey, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yep. So my name is obviously Kevin McBride. I'm with ATVS. So we are been around for about 24 years. So we're the nation's largest trucking-specific tax and accounting company. I work as a key account manager. So essentially, I work in developing partnerships with small to medium-sized carriers, essentially to help their IC fleet. You know, and what we do, kind of a little bit of a background on us. So we were started by three brothers, the Amon brothers. They grew up in trucking. Their family had a fleet of trucks. You know, as kids, they were doing odd jobs, working in the shop, odd jobs around the business. As adults, they took over the fleet. It was about 300 company drivers, and they made the decision to switch their whole fleet to independent contractors. And then in that process, they realized, you know, the drivers went. They were a lot more successful, were making a lot more money, but at the time there was really no help for the business side of it. And as we all know, driving a truck, it's a tough job. Trying to combine the business aspect and tax aspect on top of that, it's a pretty tough obstacle to overcome. So later on, ended up selling the truck line. Our CEO, Todd Amon, started the company out of his garage. And, you know, essentially our whole goal is we want to help these drivers become better business people and save money on taxes. And we've been doing it for about 24 years.
Yeah, and go ahead. Go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead now.
You're
to my left, so go first.
As a former owner-operator, yeah, I would agree with you 100%. Just because you know how to drive a truck doesn't necessarily mean you can do your taxes very well or you know, in the business part of it. And a lot of the times you don't have time, right? You're out driving long, lengthy periods of time, and you're not at home by the calculator up underneath the lamp working at night trying to get your business done. My question to you is, here it is. It has, what is your best solution for the drivers out there as you do this? How do you go at, when you talk to them and you meet with them, how do you sell them on that aspect of it?
So essentially, yeah, like you said, I mean, driving a truck is tough. You know, if you're running a restaurant, have more time where you can really sit down, do books, do your paperwork. You know, it's a much easier thing to maybe say, hey, I'm going to do this myself. But realistically, after a long day of driving, you know, we're going to save them time. We're going to handle essentially all their paperwork for them. So we do all the bookkeeping for them. We're going to provide them. One of the nice things we provide is we give a personalized business consultant. So from cradle to grave, they're going to have somebody they can call, bounce ideas off, whether it's, you know, going over the profit and loss reports that we're going to run, trying to find ways they can grow and improve their business, whether it's tax-wise, you know, whether they just want a therapist and they just need to vent to somebody because they don't have anyone to talk to during the day. You know, we can give them their time back, but then also provide expert guidance and along the way to help them be successful. And then bottom line, doing a tax return is tough. So a lot of times, you know, even if people want to do books, they'll take it into, like, say, a big box tax place to do their taxes. You know, that tax place will say, hey, you know, take this piece of paper, it's a ledger, fill out all your expenses, we'll file your return for you. You know, that I think does the driver a disservice because it's helping or making them be an expert on taxes. With us, we're going to essentially do all that for you. We're going to take all your receipts, we're going to digitize everything, and ultimately put all the pressure on us to make sure you're getting a good tax return every year. We have it signed off by CPAs and enrolled agents who can essentially represent them in case of an audit. So, I mean, it's essentially saving time, you know, 24 years of business expertise to make sure, you know, you're on the right foot, you're not running this alone, and then bottom line, we'll keep more money in your pocket at the end of the year tax-wise.
Yeah, Kevin, I can imagine the struggles, and let's just talk about that for, you know, a lot of the independent contractors that watch this show. You know, an immediate struggle is going to be, I mean, if I'm that driver, if I'm Drive Safe Dave, I'm out there driving, I mean, you've really got to bring me value, otherwise you become an expense to me. You're not HR blocked, though, right? You're not just there for me in March. You're there for the entire year. Are you also providing me that information that that says, that maybe even suggests to me when it's time to buy a new truck, and that, you know, that financials in order, so when I go to buy that new truck, maybe I'm getting interest rate more normalized and that high credit risk?
Yep. So we can advise on that. One of the nice things we do initially, so for any new client we onboard in our main program, which is called our Rumble Strip Professional, we're going to sit down and we call it a profit plan. So it's essentially a budget plan, but, you know, who likes hearing the word budget? So we call it a profit plan. We're essentially going to go through everything with them, what their revenue is, all their expenses, fixed, variable, home obligations, and we're going to come up with a plan for what they need to be doing. You know, how much revenue they need to generate, what's their break-even point essentially to be profitable, or miles if they're getting paid on the mileage side of things. So we'll do that initially, and then yes, also with the truck, I mean, we will track all their expenses for them. We have a pretty in-depth process. So we work with about 20,000 independent contractors annually. So when we do profit and loss reports for them, we have a web portal that will be visible on, we do what's called benchmarking analysis. So we can benchmark it based on a carrier, we can benchmark it based on industry segment, but we can look at, like, say, maintenance and benchmark them with other peers so we can see, hey, are you spending too much on maintenance? I mean, maybe we need to talk about getting a new truck, and then, you know, when that comes into play, we can talk about, you know, how that's going to look depreciation wise down the road. So yeah, those are all things we can help them out with as part of our program.
Yeah, I think those are values that I like to hear about. And I'm glad you said a lot of what you said right there, especially, you know, giving them the information on the benchmarking, right? Comparing their truck to other trucks, that it kind of tells them on the fuel mileage, on the expenses, on the maintenance. You know, when it's time to get that maybe upgrade that truck. A question for you though, kind of along the same lines. Things that we hear and see from a lot of independent contractors is, you know, how do they best decide which company to work for? And I say that because of this right here. A lot of independent contractors, first of all, I'm going to say, if you're an independent contractor, you don't know what it costs you to run your truck per mile, these are the kind of folks that you need to get a hold of as well. But for you on this right here, they get all of these numbers from trucking companies trying to recruit them, telling them 80%, 90%, throwing out these big percentages. And what I'm saying is, like, you know what, it would be nice for them to have a portal that says, hey, this is what you're doing right now. If you took the same revenue for that company, this is where it would stack to this company, to this company. Are you able to benchmark other trucking companies they may lease onto, or take freight from with different brokers? Are you able to help them benchmark to see, hey, which loads or which company may be the best for them?
Yeah, we don't. So we partner with carriers. We don't really want to get too involved generally in, saying this carrier or that carrier. Now we can make general recommendations, but because of carrier relationships, we don't like to do that too much. What I would say is, we don't like driver switching carriers, for one thing. Now it's a lot easier now to move carriers as things have gone virtual with orientations. It's a lot easier to quickly move somewhere. In the past, you'd have to be off for weeks while you go to different orientations. We can definitely look at things as far as, hey, you got these numbers from a recruiter. Let's run through these numbers. What you're doing now, how is this going to compare? We can definitely do that for our clients. We like to stay kind of agnostic with as far as what carrier to go to. But if we have numbers, more than happy to do a comparison. And really, it's about vetting these carriers very well, asking a lot of questions, because a lot of times people will throw out paying 90%, but 90% of what? And making sure you're very don't be afraid to ask questions to these carriers. Ask what their fees are, get a full breakdown, and also talk to other drivers that run for that carrier. But yeah, when you get all those numbers, we can definitely run analysis and see if it makes sense to switch. Because there are definitely times where it does make sense to switch, but generally, it's good to find a good carrier right away and stick with it versus doing carrier hopping, because that's just going to hurt you in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, couldn't agree more with you on that. Also, kind of along that same subject, when I find that that carrier, are there payroll deductions through that carrier if I lease onto them, or is this something I'm doing a direct deposit ACH to you directly from me, the independent contractor?
Yeah, good question. So a variety of ways. So we work with guys that run their own authority. We're working obviously directly with them. They're paying us via a credit or debit card. But we work with about 200 motor carriers. So a lot of those we can do settlement deductions at, and we offer discounts when we get situations like that set up. So at carriers, yes, we can. We don't partner with everybody out there. We're always trying to get new partnerships, but that does make it a little bit easier on the driver side. But we can definitely work with people that have their own trucks, maybe up to 1 to 13, 15 trucks, own authority. But I would say 90% of the clients we work with are one man, one truck operations that are leased onto a motor carrier.
So this is so BCB Live. It stands for Be Safe, Communicate, and if you can, be on time. We really do stress that safety aspect for the independent contractor, for drivers in general on that. Are you able to find or place value on safety with these folks? Meaning you can maybe, with their safety, maybe they have lower maintenance. Maybe they're able to get better cost of insurance. Benchmarking on safety for those items to really encourage that, that independent contractor, that individual, that small company, that, hey, you know what? There is a lot of value in being a safe carrier out there, to include losing that downtime at, from DOT or the road stops, anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that we have a knowledge hub where we post a ton of great content. So whether it's maintenance articles, whether it's, finding truck parking, taxes, we post a lot of content on there to keep folks, kind of up to speed on what's going on in the industry. I think maintenance is a big one related to safety that we stress. I mean, we're more obviously on the financial side of it, but it does have a aspect of safety to it, because if you're not maintaining your truck well, your truck's not going to run well, and you're going to cause safety issues on the road. So, I mean, I would say, the maintenance would be the big thing. We come at it maybe at a different angle because we're more looking at the finances. That's a big one right now that we're focusing on, especially the way costs are. I mean, we all know that costs are going through the roof everywhere. Maintenance is, normally the number one killer for folks, oftentimes because they're not saving appropriately for maintenance. But then it's obviously been exacerbated now because, yes, you have that, but then you also have the issue with labor shortages. So you might have the money to pay for it, but you don't have the money to wait 2 to 3 weeks downtime that we're seeing. So I would say we approach the safety maybe not necessarily from it's more the financial aspect of it, but we still try to stress, especially on the maintenance side of it, to make sure you're doing your preventative maintenance, because if you can do that preventative maintenance to prevent essentially that big repair that's going to put you down for 2 weeks.
Hey, Kevin, what a big difference between this year, this moment right now, and last year. I mean, what are you seeing? I mean, you're able to see a lot of these things. Talk to me about that independent contractor, especially those that went into maybe business last year for that first time. And so maybe some helpful hints as well for those considering going into business, because it is a big difference between 2021 and where we are today.
Yeah, so we actually so twice a year we do an independent contractor benchmarking survey where we look at net income, costs, whatnot. We definitely saw a dip. So we do it a trailing 12-month survey. So year over year, the big thing that we saw, so net income wasn't down a ton. Now that's factoring in the first few months of the year, which were still pretty good. But our average client's net income was about 69,000, down from about 70,000. Miles were down about 10% year over year. So I think the big thing that we're seeing right now is, income has gone down. It's definitely gone down more in the second half of this first part, second quarter, third quarter. But right now, it's more important than ever to have a business plan. Know what your costs are, like you talked about before. If you don't know what your costs are, you're way behind the ball as far as being successful out there. You got to know what your costs are, have a budget plan, try to save as much money as you can. I mean, we've seen a ton of people. The big move that we've seen, you were talking earlier about big motor carriers. We've seen a big shift away from the own authority market. So the last 2 years, own authority, that's been huge because spot rates were through the roof. Now we see a lot of guys wanting to go to the safety net of those big motor carriers, and they've grown a lot in their independent contractor programs because essentially you get the benefits of running under a carrier and you get the fuel surcharge, which is not, I mean, it's baked into the spot market, but it's obviously, we know it's not fully baked in like it is with motor carriers. So I think just having a good plan, knowing where your costs are, taking a step back, talking to a CPA that can help you go through your budget and still see ways there's still money to be made. It's just you got to be smarter. You can't just make bad decisions and still be successful anymore.
Kevin, and a lot of the times drivers or contractors don't really see a problem until it becomes a problem. And that might include taxes from past years you didn't do well or having tax issues going forward. Do you help with those guys or those looking back at issues from previous years and coming in now and helping them?
We can. So we can help no matter how far you are behind. It can be fixed. I mean, the first step is let's get those returns filed. We'll help them get them filed, and then we can negotiate on your behalf. So we can help take away levies. If you're getting levied, we can help take those away. And then once everything gets filed, set up a payment plan. And this is one big thing. We're actually in the process of kind of ramping this up a bit because, like you've seen in the news, the IRS wanted to hire 87,000 agents. Whether that's going to be possible or not, that's another story. But bottom line is, the independent contractor is somebody that's going to be a prime target for this. People that haven't filed in a while. So we know there's going to be a huge need for this. There already is a huge need, but we can get you filed, get you caught up, negotiate a payment plan. And the reason we want to really ramp this up is you hear a lot of these things on the radio where, they'll charge you thousands of dollars and they'll get rid of everything. There's a lot of scam companies out there that aren't doing a good job. We want to do a good job for these guys and also give a trucking specific apply our trucking specific knowledge to these cases. So we can definitely help out. Just give us a call. I'm more than happy to discuss your situation. And don't feel overwhelmed. It can seem overwhelming, but if you take it one step at a time, you can get the IRS off your back.
And it sounds great because we're talking about whether you had previous issues, whether you're having issues now, or whether you're starting for the first time out there on the road as a contractor, kind of getting back in their corner to help them either prepare and or go back, right, to help what's coming before. But as you start today, when you actually have a person walk in that's just starting up with the company today, what are some of the first things you do for them when they first start today?
Yep. So first thing when they start our service is we have in the first 90 days somebody's working with us, we have 6 to 7 set calls we're going to do with them. From our experience working with carriers, typically you see the highest turnover in those first 90 days. So first thing we want to do, like I said before, we get them set up with a business consultant. So they're going to have somebody from cradle to grave that's going to be assigned to them. Uh, they business questions, tax questions, whatever it may be. One of the first calls they'll do is that profit plan, which I said, well, they'll essentially set them up on that budget plan to help them understand their costs. We can go through different variables. Hey, what if you take an extra load per week? What if you drive an extra mile per gallon? So we can give them different things they can look at and things they can possibly tweak with their business. And then from there, in those first 90 days, so we do that profit plan, which will start them off early on. And then from there, during those first 90 days, you're going to start sending your receipts into us. So we have an app you can download. You get a receipt at a truck stop, snap a picture, send it off to us. And then we're going to go start coaching them on their profit and loss reports. So once we get those profit and loss reports issued, we're going to look at the numbers. So sometimes when you do that budget plan, you might think, it might be kind of an idealistic budget plan, but when you see that P&L and we benchmark, you might see, hey, your revenue's not matching what you said was going to be the case. Why? Let's talk about running more miles. Your fuel costs are really high. What can we do to better manage your biggest expense out there? So we'll really coach them on what their numbers are, what they can do to grow and improve throughout the year. And then we'll follow up with them, and they can call their consultant up as often as they want throughout the year. So we'll do those set calls during those first 90 days. But as long as they're a client with us, we offer unlimited inbound consulting. So if they want to call us every month to go over that P&L, constantly want to grow and improve, we'll do that for them. And those are the people that are successful. It's one thing like a gym membership. You could belong to the nicest gym in the world, but if you're not going to go in there, do the work, you're not going to get in shape. Same with us. The more someone is with us and is engaged with us, going to their online portal, viewing their P&Ls, calling their consultant up, looking at our knowledge hub, where we put our articles out, and you don't have to be on our service to see that. The more someone's engaged with us, the better we're going to be able to help them. So we'll help them off, get them started on the right foot, but then stay engaged with us, stay active with us, and you'll get the most bang for your buck.
So Kevin, how do we get a hold of you? What's the best way? Website? What do we do?
Yep. So atbs.com. So you can just go on our website. You can look at our knowledge hub. There's a contact us section you'll see at the top. If you prefer, you can just go on there, put in your details, and then we'll reach out with you. If you want to give us a phone call, our number is 866-920-2827. But if you go on atbs.com, you can view all that information.
Absolutely. All right, Kevin, and man, thank you so much for coming in. I want to tell you before you get out of here, we ask all our guests to do something special, and that's to state your name, who you're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that, sir?
Sure. So my name is Kevin McBride with ATBS, and I'm watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right.
I appreciate you, Kevin. Thank you for what you're doing out there, buddy.
Thank you much. I appreciate it as well.
Yeah, drive safe. You know what? To the independent contractors out there, I'll do another little plug here. Listen, sometimes when it gets rough out there, like a lot of you are going through that stretch right now, you're saying to yourself that you don't have the money for something like this. And what we want to do is encourage you to do a little review on the company, anybody that we bring on the show and talk to. But you know what? You've got to know where you are, where you need to improve, how you're doing on your maintenance, how you're doing on your fuel. These are things that if you can't do by yourself, you've got to get some help out there. So I would encourage you to make time for things like this, especially drive safe when it comes to taxes, because don't be the expert.
Yeah, you aren't the expert, and nobody typically is except these guys that are the experts, and that's what they're out there. And I like the fact that they're truck specific. They're not just a normal accountant or a normal average. They're actually out there designed to benefit you in the business. So what a fantastic way to do that. You've got somebody in your corner, and I think it might be the best investment in your future if they generally go out there and save you a ton of money.
Hey, Drive Safe Dave. Hey, listen, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back in about 90 seconds. It is Trucking Tuesday, Drive Safe Dave,
Bam.
Which means we got WAA and BCB Live teaming up together to give you a little bit of news on safety. Coming up next on BCB Live.
biggest fear Gold Star families have, that their child will be forgotten.
Because everyone has a story. There's a story behind every name that you see here.
It's important to teach not just kids, but everybody.
We need to never forget freedom wasn't free.
Their sacrifice is not just our past, it's our future.
Join the mission to remember, honor, and teach. Visit wreathsacrossamerica.org.
And welcome back to BCB Live, with the safest station in the nation. This segment's brought to you in conjunction with Wreaths Across America. Drive Safe Dave. Something's very important to near and dear, I think, to all of our hearts, and something we want to get involved with. Double check Dale as we start this segment today. What are we talking about?
We're going to talk about the results from the International Road Check that we did back in May. I mean, they finally got the results out there and posted, and you know what? Good and bad results if you look at it. I mean, because more vehicles were put out of service this year than last year. 11,181 were put out of service. That's about a 22% clip. That's actually above the national average of putting it out. Last year, we only saw about 16% of the vehicles put out of service. So that tells us the vehicles are getting a little older. We may be getting a little lax on doing our pre-trips, our post-trips before we taking off, and letting some of those defects slide and getting caught with it.
Drive Safe Dave, talk to us a little bit. We had an officer on going over some of this data that we saw here earlier in the week. You know, what are you hearing? What do you think the reasons are for so many of these vehicles being put out of service? And what can we do, to Dale's question, or Dale's comment there, to really keep these things from happening?
You know, as we've talked to several experts, and they bring that, you know, one of the things was, I believe wheel ends was the focus, of this specific inspection. And a lot of that, we knew well ahead of time, right, Dale? We all knew very well, months ahead of time, what the target area was going to be. And I feel like that nobody went out there and did their due diligence to make sure that, or we wouldn't have seen these. I don't mean nobody, but a large portion didn't go out and do what they should have done to go out and service these vehicles and get them back on the road and making sure they're safe.
So I'll just go out there and I'll put a challenge or a question to both of you here. Is that, okay, we went up from last year, which means we didn't, we had more vehicles put out of service than last year. Anything that would have caused that to happen this year as opposed to last year?
Well, I think equipment overall, because equipment replacement isn't what it has been, and so equipment's probably another year older for a lot of people. So I think age of equipment is definitely part of it.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to go with you, and I agree with that. Great point on that. I wouldn't even think to get equipment, right? It's been hard to get equipment repaired. Another thing, you take that in consideration with the item number 2 that I'm going to bring up, Drive Safe Dave, and that's the money. It's not the same money that we had last year. If I didn't budget accordingly, like it or not, I may not have the money to take my truck out of service for waiting for a part that may not be in for a month.
Yeah, national backlog.
Right? What am I going to do?
Run it. I mean, you're going to run it, and you're going to try to run it, and you're going to overlook some of the things that might or may not put you out of service. I can tell you right now, you might be at that pull point, that 2 tread depth, and you may run it just a little bit longer than you should to try to get to the next spot to get tires or what have you. Also, drivers were also taken out of service too in a larger portion as well, right?
That is correct. Drivers were placed out at 6.4% this year versus 5.3, again above the national average, 6.4. Well, right at the national average of 6.4. So
biggest reason for drivers being put out of service? Do you have that?
It was false logs.
Again, I'm just going to go out there and say, when times are tough, and I'm not getting behind this, we stretch it. All of a sudden, we've got to get that extra mile or 2 in, because it's not the same extra mile or 2 as it was last year. Last year, I got paid a lot of money for it. That money's gone. Last year, I spent a lot of money as a first-time independent contractor, and I'm going to say this too. Think about that. How many people went into business for the first time last year, bought themselves a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old truck and way overspent, and now there's not the money there to repair it. They don't have the experience.
Yeah.
They don't have the business knowledge, perhaps. And Drive Safe Dave, unfortunately, in today's market, they may just not have the money.
Yeah, and I'm going to go out there even one more, and you touched on it, and that was the experience. I think, you know, a lot of people entered into the industry and they didn't know full well what to look for, I don't know that every driver out there truly knows how to do a great pre-trip. And a lot of times that in and of itself is the root of the cause of these stops and these inspections.
Yeah, Dave, and Dale, you guys, you know, as company drivers or independent contractors out there on your own before, there's a difference between an independent contractor that's been in business for 10 years and a company driver that's been in business for 10 years working as a company driver. It's a different kind of level. It's a different kind of stress. It's also understanding a little bit more about your vehicle than you ever did as a company driver, including the fuel consumption, including idle time. And while you may have done all these things and maybe that trucking company never corrected you on it, you went out in the market that everybody was going to succeed, and it's changed just like that on you. And now you're going to struggle if you don't have, Dave and Dale, those best practices involved. And best practices are, to me, are going to involve safety, and that includes that pre-trip and post-trip. It really does, and knowing your numbers.
I think, and what was surprising to me is I think the second largest was not having the correct license, right?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what Rick was saying. A lot of people jumped in and really didn't know what they were doing, get in there. I mean, 25% were put out of service for the wrong class of license. That's huge.
All right. Hey, this segment was brought to you by Wreaths Across America. We want to, again, encourage you to watch them, to go to their station, learn a little bit more, get involved with what they do. Let's look at some videos here.
You know, just following too close, and we don't have a big picture. We got traffic in both lanes, and we're you know, probably at that 1 second thing, but we're not making any corrective changes here. Just got to back out of there. We can't see what's going on ahead of us.
You're not going anywhere. Both lanes are covered. They're not moving. They're running side by side, which is not, but you're not really going anywhere right now. You may give the space you need to be prepared.
More of the same, just too close. You know, we take away our big picture. We've got to just learn to back off and get it. The other thing, if you notice this one, the speed is constant and the distance is constant. There is just no change. The driver's feeling, hey, I'm far enough back. He's comfortable with it. You're not far enough back. Create that space. Ooh. Yellow light, you know, it's a stale green light. We got to be prepared to stop. Driver's already slowing down with it. You know, we may be getting a little too close to the vehicle in front of us, not really paying attention to what the light's doing. Light changes yellow and driver goes right through it. Got to do the safest thing there. Got to stop, make those intersections a little bit safer. Again, we're following too close. We're out in the left lane. They're really not going anywhere. You just got to back up and let the traffic clear, get away from you, and not get in their bubble.
Yeah, we're almost doing okay. You just need to back out another second and a half, and go the same speed. You're gonna be fine and have time to react in case something were to happen. Next shot.
Always see something scary. Isn't that, I mean, driver does a great job in this video. Appreciate him sending it in. Just a great job of recognizing. You see the brakes come on right away as soon as he's watching his side mirror, hood mirror probably, watching that, seeing what's happening, slows down, gets over the side of the road, angles toward it, does everything right, or a lot of things right there.
Yeah, so. This is when a hard brake is a good option. This right here, you know, slowing drastically, reducing speed, getting away from this danger area that was created right here by this reckless driver running, and you can tell it's a no passing lane. You can see the solid yellow lines on the curve. It just doesn't regard any life right here, but the driver does a fantastic job of slowing down, look at that, and moving over as far over on the shoulder as they can get.
Yeah, avoiding an accident, whether it's your fault or not, is critical. This is key right here. We love these videos right here where we see that driver, Dave and Dale, acting. Yep. They're looking out there. They know something's wrong, and they react to a situation that just saved somebody's life.
Yeah, yield the right of way. Don't take it. I mean, and that's just what the driver did. You know, he definitely was in the right place, but he yielded the right of way, prevented that accident.
Crazy.
And here, you know, we talk a little bit about patience. You know, driver sitting at a stop sign, just getting ready to go, and this four-wheeler has to come around and go.
Seriously?
I
thought for once we were going to show a video of somebody stopped. You know,
we did.
This is why you stop, right? This is why you do it, Because if you just rolled and kept going, you're going to hit the car. Now, it may not be your fault again, Drive Safe Dave,
It doesn't
but
matter.
you don't. It's the time, the cost, all of the pain in the butt stuff that goes when this happens. You've just saved that. Oh my God! What's wrong with you guys driving four-wheelers?
Absolutely. So here's the professional driver here doing everything they can to protect even the other drivers from themselves.
Traffic circle. That would have never happened.
Never happened.
Never have happened in a traffic circle. That's the answer to everything today, folks, is traffic circles. Hey, listen, we want to thank you for watching BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation, and we couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without your support, without your belief in watching us. And I do think it's something here because I do know this, is that a lot of you watch this show right here to get that safety belief, to get that reminder of how important safety is. And you should take that and encourage other people out there as well. God bless. Thank you for what you do. This is BCB Live, and we're the
Safest station in the nation. See you later.
Dun, 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 dun. We should have like music playing.